Well, the San Francisco 49ers survived, or dare I say even thrived, in a wild roller coaster type of game against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. Both teams are battling for playoff position, and this felt like a playoff game. And there were a number of big, dazzling plays that we've got to look at, so let's get right into it. On this first play we're going to look at, Trent Sherfield cuts right across the middle, and he occupies the safety just long enough for Garoppolo to squeeze this ball up into Jennings, and check out this throw. That was a thing of beauty. Interesting that the Niners had both Jennings and Sherfield on the field for that play so early in the game. File that away for later. A little later on in the drive, check out Harrison Smith looking off to the side. Then for good measure, he takes a few steps over there. Now he starts to move back, and at the snap, it looks like Garoppolo gets a really good look at him, sees his position on the field, sees that he's moving. Maybe Jimmy thinks he's defending Brandon Aiyuk, but I don't know why Garoppolo thought he had room to squeeze this ball into Deebo, because he definitely didn't. And the ball is intercepted. Niners turn it over early. Now, we talked about what an important game this was, and Minnesota came out swinging. Flea flicker. And it's a big gain for Minnesota. Let's go back to the snap. Alright, the Vikings start off by sending Adam Thielen in motion. Remember him. Then they hand the ball to Dalvin Cook. Now check out Josh Norman peeking into the backfield here. When Cook tosses this ball back to Kirk Cousins, Norman kind of says, uh-oh, and he just, I think kind of instinctually at this point, stays right with the guy he's on. Now I hope you didn't forget about Thielen, because the Niners sure did. Norman comes over and makes the tackle, but the damage is done. 29-yard gain for the Vikings. Watch how the handoff sucks up the defense for the 49ers. This is the kind of game it's going to be. Buckle up. The Vikings again fake a handoff, and their goal again is to get the defense to react, and they do. Meanwhile, Adam Thielen will work the back of the end zone. But I want you to watch in particular how badly Jimmy Ward bites on this fake and how long it takes him to react after Kirk Cousins has pulled this ball back. Vikings strike first and go up 7-0. But the Niners would get the ball back, and here Minnesota decides to put 7 men on the line of scrimmage. Now notice Patrick Peterson is directing safety Josh Metellus to back up and get some depth here. He's concerned that with so many men up front for the Vikings, he doesn't want to get burned for a long one by Deebo Samuel. Now here we see the Vikings don't actually rush 7 men. They do send 5, so technically it is a blitz, but they drop their linebackers back into coverage. But if we look at the stem of the routes of Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, you can see there's no way those linebackers are going to be able to get enough depth. Now, on the bottom, Deebo Samuel is covered by Patrick Peterson and by Josh Metellus. But up top, we can see that Xavier Woods is giving Brandon Aiyuk a lot of space because he's got him one-on-one. He is the last line of defense between Brandon Aiyuk and the end zone. So he's not going to get beat deep. He drops way back, and that allows Brandon Aiyuk to take the space the defense left behind and cut in. Remember, the safety's giving him so much space, he's not really there. What do you need to throw the ball deep? Time. Now watch as Brandon Aiyuk secures the catch first and then starts running with it. For all you young wide receivers out there, that is the best way to ensure that you're not going to drop a pass like that. Elijah Mitchell had 133 yards rushing on the day, averaging 4.9 yards per carry. Let's take a closer look at this one. The Niners got some good fortune on this play. Trent Williams and a couple of defenders get tripped up. And check out the defensive tackle, James Lynch. He's kind of just looking down the line of scrimmage and doesn't realize Elijah Mitchell's about to make an easy cut right in behind him. To cap off the drive, the 49ers turn to their secret weapon, running back Deebo Samuel. Now after the game, Mike Zimmer was complaining that the 49ers hold on every play. Let's take a closer look at this one. Here we see Kyle Juszczyk has his hands inside the framework of the body. That's the proper place for them. George Kittle, on the other hand, has his hands a little further to the outside, up by the shoulder pads. Now the official has a clear view of this, but in both cases, Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle immediately let their opponent go when Deebo runs by them. If you're the Niners, that's a good no call. If you're the Vikings, that's a tough no call. That photographer came prepared, and halfway through the first quarter, the score is tied 7-7. Let's move ahead to the second quarter. Now here we see that Justin Jefferson is going to try to get away from the press of Josh Norman. You have to beat press coverage if you want to play wide receiver in the NFL, and he easily does here, and Norman is beat. So he reaches out and grabs him. The official gets a really good view of this and throws the flag, but even that wasn't enough to slow Jefferson down, and Kirk Cousins hits him for a 30-yard gain. Here we see Justin Jefferson coming across the formation again, and Talanoa Hufanga steps up to pick him up in coverage. The only problem is Emmanuel Mosley already has him in coverage, and that allows Adam Thielen to sneak right behind them, uncovered into the end zone. Hufanga should have dropped back here. His job as a safety is to make sure he doesn't get beat deep. Now, truth be told, this was a very difficult play for Hufanga, especially for a rookie. And we don't know for sure what his assignment was. Maybe Mosley was supposed to go deep there, but I don't think so. In any event, Kirk Cousins sees the open man and gets him the football. Now that was not a great throw by Cousins, and here we can see why. His feet aren't set. He's trying to throw on the run, and he's not great at that. If nothing else, he does throw the ball away from Talanoa Hufanga at the very least. The Vikings go up 14-7, and already this is some ball game. Later on in the second quarter, San Francisco wants to score before the end of the half, and it looks like Juwan Jennings is setting up for a possible wide receiver screen. But let's take a closer look. He went way back for that pass. That pass was definitely backwards. And take a look at the men in front of him. They're blocking as if they're pass protecting. Well, that backwards pass was no accident because there's a rule. You can throw the ball backwards as many times as you want on a play, but you can only throw it forward once. And that's exactly what Jennings is looking to do here. And he's got his eyes right on George Kittle. Unfortunately for the 49ers, Kittle is being tackled. Now that's not legal, and the Vikings would be flagged for it. But Jennings then moves on to a second receiver. In this case, it's Elijah Mitchell. But notice how Mitchell is backing up as Jennings throws him the ball, and as a result, the pass falls a little bit short. Mitchell is still able to corral it, But the play is disrupted and he gets swallowed up by the Vikings defense pretty easily, but at the end of the play we see the flag on the field, and this would continue the 49ers drive. If you're keeping track, that's 2 trick plays in this game already. Here the 49ers opt for a more traditional pass play, and there's no play action this time, so the linebackers immediately get good depth. But Brandon Aiyuk gives his man a move to the outside and then cuts back to the inside deep down the middle of the field. And watch how Garoppolo just zips this ball right by Anthony Barr. What a pass. Watch the team run to the line of scrimmage. You can tell time is short here. We see these kinds of throws from Jimmy week in and week out. The 49ers reached back into the vault for this one. The entire offensive line moves to their right, and Garoppolo goes with them. Deebo Samuel clears, and Jennings goes to his right as well. This is the sprint right option. Deebo Samuel draws the defender away from that area of the field, and Jennings takes the space the defense left behind. He gained leverage on his man by making a quick move to the inside first and then cutting to the outside. He does have a little separation, but it's very tight. Garoppolo's going to have to make an excellent throw here. And it's a touchdown for the 49ers, and a big one right before the half. Now the sprint right option, as most 49er fans know, was made famous in the 1981 NFC Championship Game. And I'm going to show you a touchdown pass by Joe Montana on the sprint right option from that game. Let's go all the way back. But it's not the touchdown pass that you think. Already you can tell the 49ers are on the other end of the field from that oh-so-familiar play. And that's because this is the first touchdown of the game for the 49ers. And it came on the sprint right option, the same play. In this case, Dwight Clark is the Deebo Samuel of the play. He draws the defense away. And Freddie Solomon creates leverage not by a double move, but by going in motion. Montana rolls out and gets him the football, just like Garoppolo did to Jennings. In this case, the 49ers are lined up back at their own 10-yard line. If they had been up by the goal line, Solomon could have just outrun his man to the pylon like Jennings did. In this case, since they're further away, he's going to have to either make his man miss or, as happened in the game, absorb the hit and then find his way into the end zone for the first touchdown of the 1981 NFC Championship Game. Of course, as we all know, later on in the game, the Cowboys would take away that initial pass to Freddie Solomon, forcing a certain catch to be made in the back of the end zone by a certain someone who has a statue out in front of the stadium. Now the NFL has put that entire game on YouTube for you to watch, and I'll put a link for that in the description. Let's go back to our game. When Garoppolo's on, he's on, and the 49ers score with just 18 seconds left in the half, tying the score at 14 apiece. Let's move ahead to the third quarter. Here we see a terrifying sight for defenses, Deebo Samuel lined up in the backfield. They know something's coming, but they don't know exactly what. In this case, Brandon Aiyuk pins Wanham to the inside, and Kyle Juszczyk takes care of Vigil. This frees up Tom Compton to pull and act as a lead blocker for Deebo Samuel on the play. But it's the effort of Dan Brunskill that I want you to watch here. A 50-yard run by Deebo Samuel. Wow. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. Why stop there? They line Deebo up in the backfield again. Is Brandon Aiyuk going to come over and free up Tom Compton again? Well, that would be one way to approach it. But here the 49ers opt for something a lot simpler. They put a hat on a hat and let Deebo do the rest. Football is more about players than it is about plays, and Deebo gives the 49ers the lead, 21-14. And now I will show you what happens on the very next play. Kirk Cousins is intercepted by Azeez Al-Shaair, only Cousins' third interception of the entire season. Let's go back to the snap. To understand this pick, we need to take a look at the coverage. The 49ers have Jaquiski Tartt up high. The other man that drops back is Josh Norman. Jimmy Ward is covering Adam Thielen, but it looks like Thielen has position on him. I believe this is the alignment that Kirk Cousins saw when he decided to throw this football. But the 49ers aren't done yet. They're disguising their coverage. Ward is actually dropping down to pick up Justin Jefferson. Al-Shaair is the one defending Adam Thielen. The Vikings kind of suckered Garoppolo into an interception early, and here the 49ers defense returns the favor, doing the same for Kirk Cousins. It's a huge play for San Francisco and a disaster for Minnesota, as the 49ers would punch it in on the next play, going up 28-14 just like that. But the Vikings were nowhere near ready to quit just yet. And here we see Justin Jefferson getting ready to receive a screen pass, and this looks a lot like the play the 49ers used in the first half. In fact, when we take a look, we see that it's the exact same play. He's looking to pass. And here, Adam Thielen is covered. So Jefferson moves to his second target, Dalvin Cook. But the Vikings execute this play better. The throw is better, and Cook waits for the football, makes a good reception, and then he's off to the races. The two plays are identical, but it puts the Vikings in an excellent position to score in the third quarter. On the next play, Alexander Mattison does just that, making a great move and getting into the end zone for Minnesota. But here the Vikings would miss the extra point. They only get 6 for the touchdown, so that makes the score 28-20 San Francisco. On the 49ers' next drive, we see that the Vikings send a 4-man pass rush. The play-action fake holds the linebackers, but here we see something unusual about the Vikings' defensive formation. Bashaud Breeland is down at the bottom, picking up Kyle Juszczyk, while Anthony Barr is on the other side in a position where he's forced to defend Deebo Samuel. And that is a mismatch. If Deebo goes deep, and he does, that could spell disaster for Minnesota. So both safeties batten down the hatches. That leaves Patrick Peterson one-on-one against Brandon Aiyuk. And Aiyuk loses him with a little move to the outside, and then comes wide open deep down the field to the inside. Jimmy's on the money again, and it's a big gain for the 49ers, and Brandon Aiyuk is having himself a day. The play would lead to a field goal for the 49ers, and they go up by a score of 31-20. But now it's Minnesota's turn to make a statement on the very next play. Practically untouched, the Vikings return the kickoff all the way for a touchdown. Nwangu goes 99 yards to make it 31-26, and now the Vikings are going to go for 2 to try to make it a 3-point ball game And here we see Justin Jefferson is wide open, but Kirk Cousins isn't looking his direction yet. He's looking at Adam Thielen. And by the time Cousins spots him, he's still open. Justin Jefferson is open twice on this play, and Cousins throws it into the dirt. Ouch. And you can see how frustrated Jefferson is at the end of the play. The score remains 31-26. Now this game was so fantastic, and there were so many great plays that I have to show you still. We're going to skip ahead a little bit to the Vikings' next possession. And disaster strikes for Minnesota again. Dalvin Cook fumbles the football, and the 49ers are in prime position to pick it up. But look at everyone's hands. They're all trying to scoop. I'm sure you've heard, if you've ever played this game at any level, pro, semi-pro, college, high school, junior high, flag football, I guarantee you've heard your coach or PE teacher tell you, don't try to scoop and score. Just fall on the football. All the Niners try to scoop and score, and they're lucky to get this thing because eventually Azeez Al-Shaair does fall on the football, and he's got 2 takeaways by himself today, and it puts the 49ers in position to go for the kill shot. Now notice here how George Kittle gets clogged up in traffic a little bit. And this is important because as soon as the timing of this play is disrupted, Garoppolo moves off of him and onto his next read. And he has to do that. If he stays with Kittle longer than he should, well, for one thing, that's how you get sacked as a quarterback. For another, if you don't move on to your next read at the appropriate time, you're likely to miss the next window on your next target. So Garoppolo does the right thing. He moves on to his next read. It looks like Kittle comes open here, but he's not as open as you think. The safety only moves over after Jimmy moves his eyes to the next target, which is Juwan Jennings. Now Jennings makes the catch, and this play is ruled a touchdown, and that's important for another reason, which we'll look at here. This play was reviewed and overturned. But we're going to go frame by frame here. If his shin is down, as it appears to be right here, before his knee touches, by rule, that is a touchdown. And the official has a very clear view of this play. Now let's go forward one more frame. Now we see the knee clearly touch out of bounds. The NFL took a quick review of this and said, no, his knee was out of bounds. I don't think they necessarily gave it the thorough review that they should have. And the reason I bring this up is because if the play was ruled a touchdown on the field, you would need irrefutable evidence to overturn the call, which I don't think we have here. And I seem to bring this up week in and week out. The NFL replay officials in New York are not following their own rules. It kind of reminds me of, if you ever seen the show Kitchen Nightmares, and Gordon Ramsay comes into some failing enterprise, and the thing he hammers home over and over and over again is, where are your standards? Where are your standards? Where are your standards? The NFL replay officials have standards that they're supposed to follow, and they don't seem to be living up to them. At least, that's my perception of it, and I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think about that play. We went through it frame by frame. Rewind, take a look if you want to. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. I want to hear your opinions on this. Moving on, the 49ers, after that play, are forced to settle for a field goal. This makes the score 34-26, an 8-point lead for San Francisco. Now again, I've got so much to show you in that 3-play span. The one thing I didn't have time to show you was both Dalvin Cook and Deebo Samuel had to leave the game with injuries. Alright, we're in the fourth quarter now, and the Vikings are about to throw another swing in this slugfest. And here we can see that Justin Jefferson has gotten by Josh Norman. Now Norman is right there with him, but he's got his hands on him, and the officials throw a flag for pass interference. Now again, this is one of those situations where if you're the Niners, you're saying, wow, that's a tough call. And if you're the Vikings, you're saying, wow, that's a good call. I think it's a technically accurate call. Now, the Vikings did put together a nice drive here, and with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, they're facing a key third down and goal. Now here, Adam Thielen appears to be open, but there's a couple of things. For one thing, Kirk Cousins hasn't reached that point in his progressions yet, and he's about to be picked up by Deommodore Lenoir. And remember, it's third down. They've got to get into the end zone on this play. So a throw that's 5 yards short of the end zone, when you're probably going to get tackled, wouldn't be the right move anyway. And Jimmy Ward and Josh Norman have taken away Justin Jefferson. So Cousins tries to squeeze this ball into Tyler Conklin, but Talanoa Hufanga is all over it. Now, as I said, there was about 9 minutes to go in the game at this point. Plenty of time for the Vikings. But they are down 8 points, and they haven't really been able to stop the 49ers offense. So here Mike Zimmer makes the calculated decision to go for it on fourth down. But watch what happens when the Vikings line up to run this next play. We see something that's somewhat unusual, but has been known to occur every so often in the NFL. It's just one of those things. Kirk Cousins lines up under the guard and not the center. You can see where the ball is, and you can see he's lined up on the wrong spot. Now, when we switch to this other angle, you'll see Nick Bosa pointing at the running back. Some people maybe thought that this was a trick play the Vikings were getting ready to run. I don't think so, for a couple of reasons. One, you don't run a trick play on fourth down or in the fourth quarter. You would do it on an earlier down or in the third quarter, so that if it doesn't work, if something goes wrong, you have time to recover for it. And two, the running back runs up to Kirk Cousins and tries to get him to move over under center, and Cousins does the right thing. He just takes a timeout, resets the play, right? It's totally disrupted. Just reset the play, get a new one, live for another day, and fight on fourth down on the next play. And the Vikings start that next play with a play action pass. And that's an understandable decision. They would like the 49er defense to suck up against that run fake. But the 49er defense knows better than that. And at first glance, this play appears to be well defended. Everybody seems to be accounted for. But as Madison gets ready to leak out of the backfield, the 49ers have to account for him as a possible receiver. He's eligible. And both K'Wan Williams and Josh Norman slide over to pick him up. And that's unfortunate, because here Justin Jefferson catches Jimmy Ward a little bit flat-footed and burns him with a move to the back of the end zone. But the pass rush of DJ Jones and Samson Ebukam causes Cousins to try to throw this while falling backwards. Again, his feet aren't set, and again he makes an inaccurate throw. The pass is incomplete, and the 49ers get a huge fourth down stop. Jimmy Garoppolo takes a lot of criticism for throwing the ball high or for throwing the occasional, well, maybe more than occasional interception. But against Kirk Cousins, give me Garoppolo every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And here we're going to get a great look at why. The 49ers, backed up against their own goal line, are facing a key third down. Statistically, if you punt inside your own 10-yard line, your opponent is likely to score. So it is critical for the 49ers to convert on this third down and 8. And Garoppolo starts with his first read to Jauan Jennings. But he's not open. So he resets his feet and comes over to George Kittle. But he's covered. And with the pocket collapsing around him, Garoppolo stays calm, and he resets his feet again and comes over to Trent Sherfield. And Sherfield has just the slightest bit of leverage on his man, and Garoppolo gets him the football. I think this is Garoppolo's best pass of the game. It's a huge first down for the 49ers, and it keeps the chains moving. On this play, Blake Lynch does a pretty good job of carrying Kyle Juszczyk through the zone and turning him over to the safety Harrison Smith. Now, Smith gives Juszczyk a lot of space here. And I kind of get it. If he comes up to pick him up a little bit more aggressively, it runs the risk that Juszczyk could maybe go deep on him. But this isn't Deebo Samuel we're talking about. It's not like he's going to blow right by him. This is the fullback. I think Smith could have played this just slightly more aggressively. But he gives Juszczyk the space. Juszczyk takes the space the defense leaves behind. And Garoppolo is on the money. Mike Zimmer was essentially right in his calculations. The Vikings defense could not stop the 49ers offense. And here, San Francisco goes into its run game, running out the clock late in the fourth quarter, burning time with every play. And just when you least expect it, that is when Garoppolo hits you with the hard count. Two plays later, the 49ers run one more time to get the ball onto the hash mark that Robbie Gould wants. And with 2 minutes to go, he's going to attempt a field goal that will put the 49ers ahead by 2 scores, keeping this game out of reach for the Minnesota Vikings and securing the victory for the 49ers. And he misses the kick. And for me, this is an inexcusable miss. This was a critical field goal that essentially wins the game. And by not making the kick, he gives the Vikings the football with pretty good field position, and they're only down by 1 score. That was a major miss. I expect more from Robbie Gould. You need to be a professional, go out there, and make that kick. But now the Vikings have the ball, and let's see how they approach this situation. As it turns out, the Vikings have a deep shot in their playbook for just such the occasion. They send KJ Osborne deep on the play, and Jimmy Ward and Josh Norman go with him. Now, Azeez Al-Shaair does get great depth on this, but it's impossible to get enough depth, right? This is very similar to the Aaron Rodgers play that we'll pretend that never happened in Week 3. And Justin Jefferson is able to get behind him, and Kirk Cousins gets him the football with a nice pass. And that is a big chunk of yardage that the Vikings needed to get this drive going. I hate to bring it up again, but this looks almost identical to the Davante Adams pirouette. And on this play, the 49ers absolutely get caught with their pants down. Azeez Al-Shaair and K'Wan Williams get mesmerized by the running back coming out of the backfield. And with Jimmy Ward sliding over to help Jaquiski Tartt, there's absolutely nobody on KJ Osborne, and he is wide open for a long touchdown that will put the Vikings a 2-point conversion away from tying this game. This should be a touchdown pass right here. And for the San Francisco 49ers, you can thank a Mr. Nick Bosa for preventing this play. On third down, Cousins appears to have Osborne for a first down, but watch how quickly K'Wan Williams is able to break on this ball. Now, did Williams get there early? Well, he may have, but he was going for the ball. I think in this situation, it's a good no call. Of course, if you're the Vikings, you think it's a terrible no call, right? And this game has kind of been filled with those kinds of tough decisions that the officials had to make on a fly. I know I was complaining about replay earlier. I think overall this game was fairly officiated. Other people might disagree, and you're free to say that in the comments. And I want to hear what you guys think about it. So that brings up the fourth down that is potentially going to be the ball game. And the 49ers do not send a 3-man rush here. They send a 4-man rush. In fact, they almost sent a blitz. Dante Johnson had a green dog. That means if the running back stays in to help with pass protection, he has a green light to dog. Go get him. As it turns out, the running back went out for a pass route, so it's Dante Johnson's responsibility to pick him up in coverage. And the 49ers have Jaquiski Tart and Talanoa Hufanga back deep, leaving the receivers essentially one-on-one, and that is the correct formation for this type of situation. Because a big first down doesn't beat you here. Only a touchdown can beat you. Remember, the Vikings still need 8 points. Even a field goal won't help them. So their job is to prevent a touchdown from being scored. They're in the right position to prevent that touchdown. But we do see that one last time, Justin Jefferson again has position on his man, Josh Norman. And again, one last time, Kirk Cousins throws a bad pass, and the 49ers win the game. Well, as we watch Brandon Aiyuk elate with victory, he should be happy. The 49er offense was unstoppable on Sunday. They could have scored even more points. They had a missed field goal. They had a really close call that just didn't happen to go their way. But they were great for the entire game. They ran the ball for over 200 yards as a team. Garoppolo made some really nice passes. He did have a couple of passes that were his usual Garoppolo self. The high pass at the beginning of the game to Aiyuk, which we didn't have time to show you. The interception. And then he had one to Deebo Samuel deep that he was criticized for, but I actually thought was fine. You know, the defense, that was more about the defensive back just making a really good play than it was about Garoppolo making the wrong decision, in my opinion. And the 49ers really have made a statement saying that, yes, we belong here on this playoff stage with teams like the Minnesota Vikings. In fact, we're better than them, and they seem to be getting better each and every week. And they're going to need it, because despite what a lot of people seem to think, this upcoming game in Seattle is not a foregone conclusion. You still have to play the game. Yes, Seattle is struggling mightily, but Russell Wilson has a way of just turning it up when he needs to. They haven't been able to do it yet this season, but Pete Carroll is a great motivator. And all this talk about how the Niners are going to end their run together, he will use as bulletin board material. And the Seahawks are going to play really hard in that game. And if you've been watching the Seahawks-Niners rivalry for some time, you know what that means, right? Personal fouls, late hits. I hate to say it, but that's kind of the way they play. They'll go low. They are going to play hard in this game. But you know what? I'm not too worried about that, because the 49ers have dealt with that before, right? In 2019, they came into that critical final game in Seattle with a great attitude, and they played them straight up, and they beat them. So as long as the 49ers respect their opponent and have that sense of danger that they could lose this game, they'll be all right. They've got to put the work in, come in with the right attitude, and work really hard in this game, and they should be okay. If they take the Seahawks for granted, it will burn you every time in the NFL, and that's just how it goes. And the 49ers are going to be without Deebo Samuel and Fred Warner. They both want to play really bad, but I think we all know that at the end of the day, the trainers are going to say, no, you've got to rest and recover, because we've got bigger fish to fry down the road. David Lombardi on the Here's the Catch podcast made an excellent point about the absence of Fred Warner and Deebo Samuel, which is that Trent Sherfield and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles are going to have to step up in their place, and that means putting other people on special teams. A special teams unit that hasn't played really well. They certainly didn't play well in Minnesota. So you miss one piece, and it's kind of a domino effect that can impact the rest of your team. That's going to be really interesting to see. On the positive side of things, Azeez Al-Shaair has played really well. Trent Sherfield, he only had one catch in this game. He's been sort of moved into that special teams role like we talked about last week. But man, that catch he had in this game was clutch. Juwan Jennings, he really looks like he is carving out a spot in that third receiver role. So with the trio of Sherfield, Jennings, and Aiyuk, the 49ers are going to be just fine at the wide receiver position. And of course, they still have guys named George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk to help out with the offense as well. Elijah Mitchell, 133 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. Looks like he hasn't missed a beat. So the 49er offense should be able to produce. The question is going to be the 49er defense. Just like with the Minnesota Vikings, I expect Russell Wilson to attack our corners. The Seahawks are going to run the ball against those backup linebackers and take several deep shots with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf against Josh Norman, Emmanuel Mosley, K'Wan Williams. That secondary is going to be tested. And the Seahawks are already saying that they're going to do it. Their offensive coordinator came out earlier this week and said, we want to get DK Metcalf the football. We could have a shootout on our hands. It's really tough to say. If the 49ers pass rush can get going, it could be a long day for Wilson and company. But one thing we know about the 49ers and the Seahawks is things never seem to go as planned. These games are always closer than they need to be for some reason. And it makes sense, right? It's a division game. So again, the 49ers are the more talented team. They're having the better season. They're playing better as a unit. But they're going into Seattle against a team that's kind of had their number. There's a lot of demons to exercise still, even after that big 2019 win, which kind of altered the course of the playoffs for Seattle. Remember, that sent Seattle to Green Bay, and they just can't seem to get past Green Bay in the playoffs. So you can make the argument that that was sort of the game that started the Seahawks' downfall, but mark my words, it is not over yet. And anybody who thinks it is could be in for a surprise on Sunday. So prepare yourself. Prepare yourself mentally for battle, because that is what it's going to be. I want to make one last note about the injury to Dalvin Cook. That looked like a serious injury. It looks like he's going to be okay. He's going to be out for 2 weeks, they think, with a shoulder injury, and then he should be able to return in time for the last couple games of the season and then the playoffs. And of course, we wish Dalvin the best. So I hope you guys like this video. I know it's very long. If you're hanging in here with me to this long, you are a true diehard, and I really appreciate it, and I hope that we can all learn some stuff together. I love the comments. Leave me a comment, because you guys teach me things. When I say, here's what I think happened, and you say, you know, Josh, I think this is actually what happened. Now I've learned something, and I love it. I read every comment. It takes a long time to make a video like this, so if you could just give me 2 seconds and click that like button for me, I would really appreciate it. All right, it's Niners and Seahawks. It doesn't get any bigger than this, right? Big division rivalry, and you know we are going to be here after that game to break down that film, and I will see you guys then.